picking up where we left off in the last video. I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to pull down this lower unit here so that way we can check our impeller. I am not sure if it is a plastic housing or a steel housing. So we got these 4 7/16 bolts that I'm popping free here. Now I know there's going to be our shift shaft. So we're gonna knock that forward. We've got our shift shaft bolt in here. Let me just go ahead and move you guys up. You can see right there, that flathead bolt is the shift shaft bolt. I've got a 7/16 socket here, maybe a tad bit too big. Yeah, I think it's too big. I'm gonna step down and see if I can't break that free, because I know I'm not gonna be able to get it free with a, whatchamacallit, a flathead. All right, got a 3/8 here, and 3/8 does fit nice and snug. Go ahead and pull this guy out. And it appears that I have the steel housing or the metal housing. Put that up just a little bit. We'll get this broken free enough to where I can use the flathead. I thought there was a washer, but it doesn't appear so. Bolts out. Open up this clamp just the tiniest bit. And it should come right out. Oh, there we go. Cool. It's got a bit of pitting on here. Got some moisture built up inside of it. But overall, it looks pretty clean. Awesome. Alrighty guys, I got her up here in my vise. And again, I apologize, just like the last video. I don't have my good tripod at the moment. The one that I used to film the other water pump video. Yeah, my apologies. Anyways, there's 4 flathead screws you've got to break free. Seemed to be a common thing in the 60s and 70s to use flathead screws like this. And it'd probably help if I had a bit better of a vise to hold the lower unit, but so far this is working. You got quite a bit of corrosion on the shaft here. There's a good bit of pitting, but nothing crazy if you guys want to see in here. I was honestly expecting it to be a bit worse. I mean, there's some pitting right here on the top side, but where the vanes ride, seems to be pretty smooth. Oh, makes me wonder if somebody broke off this sector pin here. Pretty positive there's supposed to be a pin up on the top side. But surprisingly, I mean, I was expecting it to be more petrified in place. Doesn't even look like it's been that burnt up or anything. I'm gonna replace it just to be safe. And then we have this lower tray here. Now I've heard if these aren't sealed properly to the lower unit, it will not pull water. And if you guys want to see the bottom of this plate, this is Got lots of corrosion and buildup. Same thing in here. Show you guys. So there's tons of corrosion built up in here. A lot of stuff that is built up. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is clean this all up, and then I'm going to do some research online about possibly coming across a new unit, because I don't think I'm going to be able to get an entire new housing, which is kind of crappy. And then the grommet, I need to figure out if I can get a grommet. My research, just a quick search online, is just showing the impeller itself and not a whole kit like my Evinrude kit over here. This is an entire kit. So I guess we'll find out here soon enough. After figuring out my housing type, I jumped online and started doing some research, and I want to go through all of this stuff with you guys real quick in case you're kind of in the same boat with me. We've got this part number here that pops up when you go on to marineengine.com, which has been an awesome website. It's really helped me out. But they just show an impeller, and that's for the metal housing, which is great and all, but they do not provide you with the updated part number and the updated kit that Johnson Evinrude has released. And I'll show you guys that right here. If you look, 763758, that is the new part number. That part number has superseded the 391391. So if you look here in this photo, 391391 was the original part number, and this was back in 2004. So that's 4/26/2004, and ironically, it's 4/25 today. We're almost at 4/26. How weird. Anyways, this part here, this updated part number, is the replacement for the metal housing. And we were able to figure that out through boats.net. We were using these part numbers here on their website, and they cross-referenced over into this kit here. So this kit I'm going to have ordered up by my local marine store here. These guys, Boathouse Discount Marine LLC, they've actually got one on hand down at their Melbourne location, and they're going to be shipping that up to the Jacksonville location. And they also have a carb kit for me too. So I'm going to do a bit more research here on just getting a few bits together. Like when you guys saw me remove the input shaft, we were missing our roll pin here, or my shift shaft pin, whatever you guys want to call that, or excuse me, drive shaft pin. That just slides into there, and that was broken on my engine. And I don't know what I just did here, I'm messing this stuff up. And then if you look here on this diagram here, they have the new style water pump in place rather than the old style. And if you look, this is the 6R-72D, which is the same model that I have. So that's the kit that we're going to be going with, and when that shows up, I'll be showing you guys that. And then I'm probably going to run up right now and just go ahead and grab the carburetor kit, and we can start pulling the carburetor apart, getting that cleaned up, getting that reassembled. So all we have to do is wait on the new water pump. Also, there's one thing I want to note. This is the thermostat housing, and there's a thermostat that's supposed to be in here. I've yet to take it off, but going through the diagram here online shows that there is in fact a thermostat and then thermostat gasket, and then obviously the little rubber ring that sits on the thermostat itself. So it was nice to be able to figure that out. And then here are the gaskets for the exhaust ports. You have that first gasket there and that second gasket there. So I'm going to pull mine off and check to make sure that it's not leaking. And then lastly, you have your exhaust housing gasket. Let's go to the exhaust housing here, and number 79, you guys can see there, is our gasket. So we go up here, exhaust housing gasket, part number 0313065. So I was able to find all of these guys. I'm gonna run up to my local parts store here and see what they can't do for me. Cool. Running up to the boat store. So I was able to pick up a thermostat. Here's the part number for you guys. And then the gasket for it also. For some reason, she didn't have the part number or it's in the baggie, but I do have the part number here for you guys. The actual gasket for the thermostat, 0310058. And then lastly, I got myself a carb kit, 18743. This is a Sierra kit. This is not an Evan Reed Johnson. We tried sourcing one, but unfortunately we couldn't come across one, so I ended up picking up a new pump for my lower. So I got a few goodies. We're gonna go back and start pulling this carb apart, cleaning it out, and we'll throw this rebuild kit in it. Back at the shop, I'm gonna go ahead and pull off the thermostat housing, check if there's even a thermostat in here. Lord knows how many people have been in this thing since, 1972. So hopefully there's a thermostat in there, and maybe that'll explain why it got hot. Maybe somebody didn't realize that it was a thermostat motor. So gonna get that swapped out. Unfortunately, I don't have the gasket for that, so I'm gonna use some Wright stuff. This is freaking awesome. I use it on almost everything vehicle related, and I know it's good with water, so it should hold up for a thermostat housing. And then we're gonna pull the carburetor off. That's gonna be straightforward. Just these 2 bolts, 1 and 2, swing the starter down so that way you have access to the actual cam bolt here, and then the second mounting bolt for the carburetor itself. We'll get that pulled out, taken apart and cleaned up, and then maybe we might throw it back together and see if it'll run today. Maybe. Oh yeah, we'll talk about some corrosion now. Look at all that. And then the thermostat itself is really disgusting. Yeah, I think it might have a hard time passing some water through there if it looks like that. That is for sure. See if we can get this guy out. That is gross. That's got to be like sand. Oh, it's most definitely some sand. I kind of feel bad now. I kind of feel like I should have pulled the thermostat off immediately and just ran it without it. That's gross. Oh yeah, it's all down in here in the water jacket. That is gross. I think I might get some salt away. Wow, look at that, guys. Alrighty guys, I've got most of this stuff cleaned up. We're gonna go ahead and install the new thermostat along with this new gasket. Go ahead and slide that over there. Nice brand new thermostat. Gasket here. You want to note that the gasket is going to be facing downwards with the taper end downwards for the obvious reasons. And this guy just stretches on over. Make sure you guys can see that. Little tapered edge going down. And then it simply just drops right in. Pull you guys out real quick. Drops right in there. I'm gonna go ahead and drop that cover back on, tighten those bolts down, put a little bit of thread sealer on them. See if I can adjust you guys here. Do a dab of this former gasket on these bolts because I know that they're going to be messing with the water jackets, or in between the water jackets. All right, beautiful. Thermostat and the gaskets in there. Got the RTV right stuff as the actual housing gasket, and then a little bit of this former gasket here from 3M, or Permatex, excuse me, and dab those onto the bolts. Now we're going to move our attention to the carburetor. Alright guys, we're getting set up to take this carburetor out. I've already explained to you that I was going to pop these two bolts for the starter and then just kind of drop it down, swing it out of the way. That's at least my game plan. Will it work? I don't know. It's not really a how-to video. It's more of a, I'm bringing you guys along on will it start, will it run, and will it get me in the water for cheap and have a little more horsepower. There's tons of videos online of people doing carb rebuilds and such, so if you guys are on the channel for that, sorry, I won't be reviewing that. Alright, just gonna go ahead and lay this over. Just like so. Try to keep that spring and everything in there. Might be harder going back in, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. Look at all these mosquitoes. It's like I live in Florida or something. Alright. Get this cam bolt out of here. Fit in there, eat it. Yep, perfect. Wow, that thing was loose. Wow. All right. That got pulled out of the way there. Alright, let me pop you guys out of here just to show you. Removing the starter and then removing the cam here. Can't get my finger around it, but it's what rides on the throttle. And then it gives me access to that bolt there, so that way I can get that out. And that'll allow me to remove the carburetor. I've obviously got to pull my needle out. That'll take a couple seconds. And then the whole carb will come out. Alright, fuel mixture needle is out. Looks like the O-ring got stuck in there with it. Now we can go ahead and loosen up all of these, well, both of these nuts. That is crazy. I am willing to bet that's what was my issue was. I bet you was pulling in air. I don't want to drop this thing down in the cowling here. Make it work for this one. Alright, now the carburetor comes right on out. And there she is. Little 6 horsepower carburetor. Cool. Well, now that the carb is removed, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. I think I'm going to make us taking apart this carburetor and rebuilding it a part 3 in this 72 Johnson 6 horsepower series that I've got going on here. I don't want to bore you guys too much, and this video is starting to get lengthy. I think we're at 20 minutes or 21 minutes, so you guys can see, obviously, everything's laid out. The carburetor, the fuel mixture needle, and I got the O-rings out. Just pulled them out with a pick. They came out in 2 pieces, unfortunately. Choke's pretty self-explanatory, and then I've removed the bowl drain. So everything else will be in the carburetor video, and we'll do that kind of step by step and show you guys the inside of this carb and her condition. So let me go ahead and close it out. I want to thank you guys for tuning in and joining me in this video. Be on the lookout for part 3, where we get that carburetor cleaned up, reassembled, and back on the motor. And one last thing, I did call the boathouse place after I pulled the thermostat housing off, because once I saw those water jackets, I knew that we're gonna have some sand and some buildup inside of that jacket, or the jackets around the cylinders. So I went ahead and ordered a head gasket, and amazingly, the store that's local to me in Jacksonville had an OMC Evinrude Johnson gasket on the shelf, ready to roll. So I'm kind of amazed that they had one, and so was the parts lady that I spoke to on the phone. She was like, I have it in my hand, it's ready to go. So I'm gonna pick that up tomorrow. We'll get the carburetor all squared away, and then I may end up popping that head off, cleaning that up, checking those water jackets, and doing so. I mentioned earlier in the video that I wanted to take the exhaust housing off right here that has the 2-sided gaskets where that plate's in between, but I'm gonna have a hard time getting into the cowling to remove those lower bolts. So that may just have to be until I decide whether I'm gonna lift this power head or not, because if I lift the power head, well, if it's still leaking from that water jacket or the exhaust gasket down at the very bottom of the power head, that needs to be replaced either way. The power head's got to come up, so that water jacket cover or plate has to come off. So either way, but I'm sorry, I'm running my mouth. Thank you guys again. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next one. Later.